Welcome to the Live It Right podcast, hosted by John and Caitlin Lindsay. We're going to be talking all things health and wellness, from food, fitness, relationships. So if you want to live your best life and live it right, join us for this conversation.
So whether you're a health enthusiast, a busy professional, or someone looking to achieve a more fulfilling life, you're in the right place. Tune in, subscribe, and join our community as we explore the path to living it right.
Let's go.
All right, welcome back to the Live It Right podcast. We are on episode 7.
And today we are talking 2 lessons learned in our careers in food and fitness.
And I'm going to kick things off and just dive right into it. 2 things that I have, big takeaways of mine in my career have been like, 1, that healthy eating looks different for everyone. And number 2 is to not get caught up in mainstream media when it comes to health and wellness.
Love it.
So let's go ahead and kick things off with the first one. You know, I'll preface this by saying, if you've heard my story, you've heard that I grew up in a healthy home. My mom, wonderful cook. You know, we ate at home 98% of the time. Eating out was a special treat. Mm-hmm. And it was a well-balanced meal. Yes, we ate carbs. Yes, we ate bread. But it was a healthy, well-balanced meal. And so basically, since day one, I have been instilled with just healthy habits and understanding what healthy eating means. But I have come to realize that that looks different for people. Someone may have grown up on frozen meals and know no different. And like, I think the biggest thing is understanding that I need to meet people where they are, understand their background, where they came from, what healthy eating meant to them. Because some people, if it's deep fried, but it's a vegetable, they still might see it as, well, I'm eating vegetables.
Yeah.
So, and, you know, I mean, by no means like trying to, like, I don't want anyone to ever feel judged or out of place, or that, you know, they're missing some big point in something, but just really having to take things backwards, reel it in, and understand that not everyone came from where I did. Yeah,
it's not crazy to me anymore because it's happened enough times, but it is, I guess, unfortunate. It's probably the right word when you have enough of a conversation with someone and realize their definition of healthy eating might be they had the lower calorie foot-long sub from Subway, and that's like the healthy. And is that better than some things? Maybe. But it's shocking, but it's not shocking anymore that is some people's perception of healthy eating, is they're having the lower calorie option at a fast food place.
That's where greenwashing comes into play, where it says low carb, low calorie, fat free, all of that. I mean, I've had to tell people just because it says gluten free doesn't mean it's healthy.
Yeah, that's a big one that's manipulated these days.
And it's, you know what? I mean, I ate cereal as a kid, you know, but also cereal has changed. Ingredients have changed, but it's an ever-evolving understanding of what healthy eating is. And, you know, I've had conversations with people that said I didn't have a vegetable, like a fresh vegetable, not in a can or not from the freezer, until I was 30 years old.
Yeah.
And, like, I had to understand, I mean, that took me, literally, it took me a minute to, like, grasp that, because I had never had, I mean, I've had canned vegetables, yes. I've had frozen vegetables, but like I knew fresh. Like that was just what I knew. So it took me a minute to understand, oh my gosh, I didn't, I guess you just don't think about the fact and wrap your head around the fact that people come from all different places.
I think if you didn't come, like I don't know if my growing up was quite as healthy as yours, but we definitely ate in, similar to you, 98% of the time. And I was always so jealous of the kids that got to go out to eat. They were at McDonald's, they were at Burger King. Yeah. And now I look back on it, I'm so thankful that my parents were able to cook and had the free time and the want to do that. Mm-hmm. But I can also remember going to friends' houses for like slumber parties. Mm-hmm. And we'd get up and have some like Lucky Charms, whatever, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And some people there would be drinking Sprite.
At breakfast?
At breakfast,
yes. Oh, my goodness gracious.
And this was really typical of us, like 90s kids. on the table with your salt and pepper would be a little thing of table sugar, so you could add more sugar to your cereal. Yeah, so you could really get it crazy. And I was always so jealous of it. I was like, oh my gosh, I want Sprite for breakfast every morning and all that stuff. But so if somebody grew up that way and, let's say they're our age, they're 35 and they're like, now I need to undertake this skill of learning how to cook and how to be mindful of what I'm selecting at the grocery store.
And that's a really good point though, is like, eating healthy doesn't necessarily mean you have to make everything from scratch like I do. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, I understand that is my career, number one. Number two, I mean, we prioritize that, make time for it. That's not attainable for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, I don't expect you to all of a sudden overnight go from like one extreme to the other, but understanding those swaps. And like, I think this has just really opened my eyes to a new desire, especially in the last few months, to really help educate in simpler ways.
Yeah.
He's always told me, and I poo-pooed him because, I mean, 1 minute I'm creating a puff pastry from scratch, made gluten-free per request from a client who couldn't have gluten. And then John's like, Caitlin, why don't you teach people how to slice an onion? I'm like, everyone knows how to slice an onion. And he's like, actually, no,
I don't know how to slice an onion. And I'm an okay cook.
Yeah, but just understanding, like, I mean, I think that's true for a lot of things, not just understanding, like, reel it in, Caitlin. Understand that meet people where they are.
Yeah.
Understand. I mean, I have clients who grew up on frozen meals. They were like, they don't even know, like, the meal came ready to go to put in the microwave. Like, they didn't even know what a balanced meal looks like. They didn't understand what foods are complex carbs, what foods are starches, what foods are,
why a long list of ingredients might be a negative thing,
correct.
All this stuff.
So it's really, I mean, healthy eating looks very different for different people, but there are attainable ways of eating healthier no matter where you are.
Yeah.
Or where you started.
Yeah, you touched on it in a couple podcasts back when we were just talking a little bit about Healthy Eating 101. Mm-hmm. You mentioned, I forgot what the number was, but if you have someone who's eating out 10 times a week, a nice goal is over the course of a month, try to get that back to 5 times a week. Mm-hmm. And, over the course of that time, you're going to learn how to make some easier stuff. And it's a forced habit change.
But 2 things I definitely mentioned there, in that podcast was, number one, don't commit to something that you can't actually do.
Right.
So he said, start small, attainable goals, but also understanding healthy eating can be done with 5 ingredients. It does not have to be recipes. And I will say it again. I said it in that episode. Do not be overly consumed with what you see on social media, because
less is more. Less
is more. And what I call an easy recipe could be mind-blowingly hard for someone.
Totally.
And so start where it's comfortable for you.
Yep.
And if you have any questions, let me help you get started. I would love to help. But just understanding the simplicity of healthy eating looks different for everyone. Mm-hmm. That has been something that has been a resounding lesson for me as I continue to work with different types of people who grew up differently.
Yeah.
So that's number one.
Love that.
And then do not get caught up in mainstream media when it comes to health and wellness. I know my 90s kids will chuckle, the ladies will. I was not allowed to read Cosmopolitan. I would read it at my friends' houses, but
why not?
Because it had inappropriate stuff in there, according to my mom.
It was just too revealing.
I guess. Yeah. I don't even remember what was in there, but I do remember that magazines like that gave you a laundry list of things that you needed to do. It was 5 steps to X, Y, and Z, 10 steps to the perfect skin, 5 steps to the perfect abs. It was all crap.
I bet if you pulled those magazines out and looked at the skin example, they'd be just the most ridiculous things now.
Yeah, scrub your face with St. Ives apricot scrub.
It's going to
rub your face off with the chemicals in it.
Yeah.
But it's just, But that is what we knew. And I will say it's debilitating for women. I mean, maybe you can weigh in on
Yeah.
guys if you want. It's debilitating for women when you're constantly told that you're not enough, that you're not good enough. Your hair isn't good enough. Your skin isn't clear enough. Your stomach isn't flat enough. It's debilitating. And every body is different.
Yeah.
And like what I need to achieve my fitness goals is totally different than someone else.
And humans also naturally want quick fixes.
And that, I'm sorry, I hate to break it to you, it ain't gonna be that.
They don't want a magazine. All right, what are the 5 steps to being healthier and fitter? Okay, remove this stuff from your pantry. Okay, commit to working out 5 days a week for the rest of your life. Commit to getting 8 hours
You know
of
what
sleep.
they
It's
want?
like, that's not going to be a selling point.
The magic serum,
Totally.
the weight loss pill, the food that you can still eat, but you can pop something and you'll still take
You can
the
still
weight
eat
off.
ice cream and it's low,
Yeah.
low carb somehow. Yeah.
It's quick fixes. That's, it's heartbreaking, and it's heartbreaking to watch. Like, I've watched friends over the years. I mean, I've struggled with stuff myself, but just watch how like the media really can get into your head. And like, we've talked about this before.
I mean, the people that do mainstream media marketing are, I'll say, evil geniuses, I guess, because they're so good at manipulating
Yeah.
us, you all, into buying these things. And you hear a commercial enough for this miracle pill that's going to help you lose 20 pounds in a month, whatever it is.
But I'm going to tell you right here and right now, for example, I'm just speaking for John and I here. We're not, yes, we get paid to do this. It's our career. We're not here to say something or tell you to do something for money. We're doing it, and they're not doing it, like you're mentioning, they're not doing it for your best interest. We are doing it because we desire to help you become the best version of yourself. That's why we
It's
do
what
it.
we're doing anyway. So
Right.
we just want to share what we know.
We're practicing what we preach.
Yep.
So, a couple tips, we talked about the food. A couple tips about mainstream media, I would feel like, is one thing I've done very much so. I do it on a monthly basis now, is I clean up who I follow. If they're not bringing me joy, if they're not serving me in a positive way, if they're not encouraging me and motivating me to be the best version of myself, I don't need to be following that account.
Yeah, they don't deserve your mental bandwidth.
No. And trust me, it's easy to get sucked in. So like, that's one thing that I've done is, what is that? You're the product of the 5 people you spend the
interact
most
with
time.
the most.
Yeah.
And now the modern version of that now is probably,
Listen.
or at least to some extent, it's, what media are you or a piece of it is definitely what media are you consuming that definitely shapes who you are, for sure.
Shout out to my mom for always telling me I should not be listening to certain music, which you are probably right. Now we see all these reels about the lyrics that we would blast in our car when we were in high school, not understanding what it was actually saying or paying attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, anything else you want to say about mainstream media? I don't know if you want to throw something in there.
Well, I think this probably speaks. You don't watch television, much general television, and I don't either, but I work in a gym where there's typically a TV on ESPN or the news, various news stations. And inevitably, you just see these commercials, and the commercials are fast food, some sort of weight loss or pill that's
Quick
going
fix.
to, for guys, some sort of testosterone booster that's going to make you more muscular, or it's some sort of pharmaceutical that's going to help you deal with this issue that was developed because you're living a terrible lifestyle. Like, that's what the news is constantly. And so you just think that's what life is. You're like, yeah, I go eat fast food. Yep, I'm going to have to get one of those pills eventually. That's just normal. So the more you can, remove those things from your day-to-day, I think I do a good enough job where, I have to see that from time to time, but it's so far removed from me as a real thing I'm going to buy into that it doesn't bother me. But it's crazy how much people, they wouldn't be doing those commercials if people weren't buying that stuff. So, a good rule of thumb actually is if a food company, a pharmaceutical, or a supplement, I guess would be the best word, if one of those 3 companies has enough money to have a commercial on mainstream television, it's probably terrible for you.
Yep. And I will say, the last thing I will say, which will flow right into your first
Fitness.
point. Is, we're talking about, you mentioned these mainstream media and the pill, all that kind of stuff. You have to do the work. I'm sorry, like point blank,
Yeah,
you
it's
have to
lifestyle.
put in the work.
Lifestyle change. And
You have to fix those things. I mean, I'll share some of my personal things, healing eczema. It was not through a pill or a cream. It was through changing something I was consuming that was causing.
yeah. And you tried pills and creams.
Oh,
and
I've tried.
It was never long lasting results.
It put a Band-Aid on it. And, I was rubbing steroids on my body, which I don't do anymore. But you have to put in the work. You have to put the effort in to make the change because it is a lifestyle.
Have some willpower, make the change.
That is the last thing I will say. So we'll pass the baton to you.
I'll take the baton, and now we're going fitness. So for me, when we brought up this idea for a podcast, one thing stood out immediately, and that was trust the process. And I'll give an example of a perfect example for me that really, that really just hammers this point home. But this could be trusting the process for strength work, endurance work, mobility work, whatever it is. If your goal is to get somewhere else and you're constantly changing the program you're on, you're thinking, oh, I plateaued on my squat after 2 weeks of this program. I was trying to go up every week. I'm going to switch to another program. That's just not going to get you there. Linear progress is almost never a thing when it comes to fitness. It might be early on if you're very green to fitness, if you're a super novice, but as you develop in the space, like progress is you might feel like you've plateaued for 2 months, and then all of a sudden you have just an incredible week where stuff just really hits and you make these really nice jumps. So for me, the biggest thing where I was like, okay, this is what trusting the process was learning how to do a handstand. Certainly happened with mobility work as well, just kind of creating the habit. But, probably 10 years ago for a 2-year time frame, I would just go out to a local park a few times a week, kick up on my hands. Eventually I got to where I could walk on my hands, could kind of hold still for a little bit of time, but I had this very banana back shaped. And later on, I started to see people on Instagram, internet, with this just aesthetically awesome straight line handstand. And I wanted to get to that. And first I thought, okay, I'll just try to hold a straight one when I jump up. A guy who became a good friend of mine, Dr. Wes Hendricks, we started interacting on Instagram. He sent me a program, and the program to me seemed initially, before even trying it, I was like, oh, that's way too easy for me because it's a lot of just holds on the wall. I can already hold on my hands.
He had you regress to
progress. Yeah. Progress. But, at that time I had kind of already been in this mobility space, and I knew I had already dropped my ego. I was like, I don't care. I'll do basic stuff. Let's see what happens. And I committed to doing this, what I thought was going to be an easier program, for probably 3 or 4 months. And initially it was incredibly hard. And that's when I knew I was like, okay, this is different. I'm trusting this process. Let's see where it takes me. And made the progress, can do a handstand pretty well now. And it was all about setting that foundation and being, 3-4 months, I'm not leaving this path.
Well, you said something that I loved. You said you dropped your ego.
Yeah.
Because I think that's something that a lot of people can and should do when it comes to fitness.
Yeah.
I mean, my personal experience, I've lifted weights. I've been an athlete my entire life. But the first time I stepped into a Pilates class, I walked in, not with a big ego, but I was like, this isn't going to be hard at all.
Took a look around.
Like,
you're like, oh, I'm going to win
it's
this
like,
class.
I'm like pretty darn fit. I can crush this.
You're also very competitive, so that should,
to say the least. I got my ass kicked. I think I felt it 3 days later still.
yeah.
So it's.
And you kept going back though. You
and
still
I
go,
love
and
it. Oh, and I still get my tail kicked because there's always one thing that I've learned in whatever practice you have is there's always room for growth, always room to be better. There is never a threshold that I felt like I couldn't take it a step further, go a little bit longer, take the weight up a little bit more.
That's been a great stimulus for you too. I can tell. One, you like it a lot. Two,
I'm competitive.
Well, I was going to say too, no, I can tell your body wise, it's like the stimulus you're probably looking for.
Oh, and I'm seeing change in my body.
Yeah.
Yes. And for a woman, especially when you start seeing the change that you had been hoping for, and I'm 35, I'm in better shape than I was in my 20s.
Yeah. But you're not going to see that change going to the class for a week, for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks. It
It's
really
been months.
is. Yeah. You're probably closing in on 6 months.
And I go 3 times a week.
Yeah.
So aside from the other stuff, but yes, seeing, yeah. So anyways.
Yeah. Trust the process. Handstands for me, that's what I think. When I hear the phrase trust the process, that's what I think of immediately. Same thing though, just in my own path is these higher level mobility drills, middle split, back bridge. If you're flip-flopping drills all the time, thinking you're going to find some hack to get to where you want to be and make faster progress, you're not. Like, you're not going to somehow trick the body and give it this amazing stimulus. It's just about hard work and get really good at the drills you're doing. Trust the process.
I think one thing that I noticed from an outsider's standpoint on this is, just like you mentioned, especially in your specific field, this is not like adding 2.5 pounds, adding 5 pounds, adding 15 pounds to the same drill or movement. This is a true progression. Everything you do, well, most of what you do, most of the harder movements are a true progression that, like, you physically can't get to the next level until you perfect something before that.
You got to create the range of motion.
It's not just adding 5 pounds. It is truly a stairway.
Yeah. And sometimes you take one step down, but then you take 2 steps up.
Yeah.
So number 2 for me is don't be afraid to take a recovery day. And I'm not saying rest day because I don't do rest days.
No, he does not.
And I think a lot of people who are really active can relate to this. Definitely you. I love the feeling of moving my body and getting exercise. And, that's almost impossible for me to do just for the sake of maybe my front split session will be better in a week if I just don't do anything. Like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. Or maybe if I take 4 days off from bike riding, maybe that ride will be better. I'm like, I'll do a recovery day instead. And so a recovery day can look like, you can be doing the same exercises within a session you normally do, but reduce that volume by maybe 50%. So if you're doing 4 sets of something, do 2 sets. You could also manipulate it by really reducing weight. You could do body weight versions of stuff. If you're feeling really beat up, do like something I've loved to do recently is a like mobility flow, kind of yoga-esque, maybe some core work as well. I do think you can work the core a lot. And then go on a really long walk or just a super light bike ride. Keep it zone 2, keep it less than that. For me, it's impossible to have a true rest day, but a recovery day, it's easier for me to sell to myself a recovery day. And, if the stimulus isn't that great, isn't that high, you're moving the body around, you're getting good blood flow, getting lymphatic system flushing out. That's crucial. And don't think, okay, I missed this day or I deloaded this day a little bit. My gains are gonna plummet. My progress towards this goal is gonna plummet. A lot of times, let's say you're trusting this process, but you just feel so beat up. Take that rest day, because maybe you did take a step down, but now you're gonna take those 2 steps up. And a rest or recovery day could be the key.
And I think both of us have struggled with that over the years.
Yeah, I love to move. I mean, it's.
But the thing is I've also noticed that on the days that we stretch or do the mobility, like the mobility flow and go on a really nice long walk, sometimes those are, hit
a sauna session.
It may be a recovery day for your body, but I feel like it's another work day from my mind in a good way because I'm able to reflect on the week before, where I could have improved, where I want to push myself the next week, which is preparing myself for a solid week of training. So, and yes, both of us struggle with that. So there is no such thing as a total rest day of the Lindsay sitting on the couch. We are doing something, but it is definitely taking it
a step back from what you normally do.
And
I think really being able to do this well takes experience, but the phrase listening to your body, it's really hard to do that sometimes. But if you've created the good habit of working out and you just feel beat up and smoked,
Don't
go on
push
an
it.
hour walk, stretch for 10, 15 minutes, light stuff. That's it.
And the other thing we don't do on recovery days is let our nutrition go to crap.
Yeah.
So that's
Oh, yeah,
another
yeah, yeah.
piece is we stay, I'm not going to tell you that we don't have pizza Sundays. Y'all have seen that. We don't have pasta Fridays, but we do not we don't throw our routine out the window on recovery day. Sleeping, eating, moving, any of that, it just looks a little bit different.
Yeah. Try to keep the same habits.
Yeah.
Lighter workouts, same habits.
And the more you allow yourself to do that, it's a lifestyle. It's such a routine that's
Yeah.
ingrained in our brain. It's just part of our life. We know no different.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
anything
Well,
else you want to add?
I think that's it. That was episode 7.
Yeah.
Episode 7.
We're almost at that double digits.
We're getting there. We're going to get
Getting
there.
there. We're getting there.
Thanks as always for listening.
If you have anything that you want us to chat about, please send us a message.
Shoot us a message. Yeah, we'd love to get some ideas, and subscribe, rate us, all that good stuff. We appreciate every listen and every rating.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks.